Hello and welcome back to the Cash vs. Trash podcast with your hosts, Rob
and Demi, where we take the highest and lowest grossing movies of each year from 1970 to 2021 picked at random, then decide if they deserve the title of either cash or trash.
Yeah, today, as I'm sure you've seen by the title, we are talking about 2016, the highest grossing movie of that year, Captain America Civil War. So that's week one.
Yep.
This week, and next week we'll be talking about the lowest grossing movie of that year, which is... You're not supposed to actually say it. I was making a joke there. now it's just going to be silence. Yeah.
So, Captain America Civil War, Marvel movie.
Yep.
Obviously, it was going to be the highest grossing.
Yes.
They pretty much always are.
Yeah. As we were talking about just before, it is... highest grossing of 2016. It's Marvel, as owned by Disney.
Yep.
And then, have you got the top five there?
Yeah, so obviously Captain America number one. Number two was Rogue One. Number three...
Sorry. Rogue One, Star Wars, owned by Disney.
Yep. Number three was Finding Dory.
Hang on. How much did the first two make?
I don't know.
Over $1 billion.
Yeah, over $1 billion.
Okay, I thought you wrote that down. Anyway, I remember... Anyway, so those two both made over $1 million.
Over $1 billion.
Sorry, you'd hope they made over $1 million. They made over $1 billion.
Yeah.
And number three was...
Finding Dory.
Which is Pixar, owned by Disney. And
yep.
it also made over $1 billion.
Yep. Number four was Zootopia.
Zootopia, which is just Disney Animation Studios, which is Disney. Also, over $1 billion.
Yep. And then number five was The Jungle Book.
Which is a live-action adaptation of an animated Disney movie, and it's the Disney version.
Yes.
So that's Disney Studios. I can't remember. I haven't looked into it. We're not talking about that movie today. But anyway.
Either way, all
Disney. Top five, and it was 996 or something like that. Million,
yeah, so almost $1 billion.
And if you add on all like the extra millions or 100 millions on the others, all five of them collectively made $5 billion.
Yeah.
The budget of Captain America Civil War was $250 million.
Yep.
So
we said if roughly each five of those movies had like a $250 million budget, that just that year they made like a $4 billion profit.
Yes, and just from these five movies.
Yeah.
So whether there were other Disney movies, which, you know what? I think I've got the page open. Let's have a quick squiz. I like to look at the top 10 because, you know, top 5 is one thing, but this is a list of 200 movies. As we've said before, we go off of boxofficemojo.com.
Yep.
That's just what we use. When we do movies before 1977, we'll get to that, but there was a different website that helped us out there because apparently movies just started, or the box office just started with Star Wars: A New Hope. Yeah. Anyway, I think that was 77. That was 77, right?
I don't know.
We will get murdered
You're the
if I got
Star Wars
that.
fan. You tell me.
Well, I've buried myself now. I'm going to say 77.
You're not a Star Wars fan.
Yes, I am.
You have to know the release date of every single movie.
You're right. I'm not a Star Wars fan because I'm a decent human being.
Out of the fandom.
Oh, no. Number 6, Secret Life of Pets. I'm not going to look into that, but who cares?
Is that a Disney movie?
I don't think so.
Well, who made that?
Illumination.
Oh, yeah.
I remembered. I saw somebody ranting about Illumination on a YouTube video. I think it was Shea Friller's Productions. That guy's good, but intense. Anyway, Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice was number 7. This is Warner Brothers. It's a terrible movie. Number 8 was Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
Was that the first one? Of
Yes.
the Fantastic Beasts?
Yes.
Yeah, that movie was boring.
Yeah. Also Warner Brothers. Number 9 was Deadpool, which at the time was Fox. So the box office earnings would have been to 20th Century Fox, anything for it was like a year or two, it was about 2 years ago, Fox was bought out by Disney. That's why there's all that stuff on Disney Plus now. And number 10, Suicide Squad, another Warner Brothers movie, also trash.
I would have thought Deadpool would have been in the top 5.
It's R-rated. Oh, sorry, no. That in America, in the United States of America, it's R. Here,
MA.
again, we'll never tell. It's MA 15 plus, which is usually, it's harder to make money when your movie's rated that much because anybody who's
not 15 or older,
can't
watch it
without
a parent.
Do they have to have it? No, you have to be 15 or older. If it's here, it's R18 plus. You have to show your ID.
Yeah.
But people get into MA movies like it's not that hard, depending on where you are, to get away with it.
I thought people loved that movie when it came out. Everyone was talking about it.
Deadpool.
Yeah, I thought it would have got higher.
Yeah. Oh, did I watch?
Higher than The Jungle Book.
2016. I went and watched Deadpool in cinemas, so I contributed to that.
Well, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Your $14. $14 contribution.
It wouldn't have been that much.
$11.50.
Yeah, let's say an even 10.
Movies are more expensive than that. Anyway,
but I will just quickly. 11 and 12. 11 was Doctor Strange, which that's Marvel, Disney, and 12 was Moana, which deserved to be number 1.
She was number 12.
It's a kids' movie.
Wow.
2 weeks ago we talked about Toy Story 3.
That was number 1. Yeah. That's very surprising to me because Moana was amazing.
Yeah, but well,
it deserved to be in the top 5.
I'm just gonna chalk it up to like
better than Finding Dory.
Yeah, I was just gonna say kids movie, but Finding Dory's. Yeah, but Finding Dory's a sequel. That's the thing. Captain America: Civil War sequel, also part of the biggest franchise ever, other than maybe Star Wars. They're pretty much in direct competition these days. Rogue One, Star Wars, and prequel. Finding Dory, sequel, and a Pixar movie. Zootopia, it was original, but it's Disney, and yeah, furries love it. The Jungle Book, live action adaptation, which people just go crazy over that stuff. Yeah, that's the top 5. The rest we won't talk about.
Well, I disagree with the list, but anyway.
Well, boo-hoo. That's not how it works.
Like you said, Moana should have been number 1.
This isn't the list of top-rated movies. It's the list of what made the most money.
Yeah, true.
And yeah, so Captain America: Civil War just had a quick look on Rotten Tomatoes. Has a score of 90% certified fresh on the tomato meter, and an audience score of 89%. So yeah, and it's a good movie. Like I'll just say it right there. It's a good movie.
Yeah.
It's part of the MCU. If you don't know what the MCU is, how comfy was that rock that you were under for the past 14 years? That's how long this franchise has been going. It started with Iron Man, and this isn't going to be an episode about the MCU or how this fits into that. We'll talk about comics and we'll talk about the MCU and stuff, but that's not going to be the focus.
Yeah.
That's barely probably going to come into it.
I'm new to the Marvel world, so I didn't start watching these movies in 2014 when they first started. Is that what you said?
2008.
2008, sorry, 14 years.
Yeah.
And I only started watching these movies when we got together. And you showed me some of them.
No, you'd seen Doctor Strange because our relationship is a little bit younger than this movie. It came out in...
We were just freshly started dating and I watched Doctor Strange at the cinemas without you.
Yeah. No, it was before. It was just around the time we met. Why are we going into this? This came out Yeah, April. Or May. That was April 12th, 2016 was the premiere. And then May 6, 2016 was the United States release, which would have been roughly the same of here. So yeah, May 2016, so a few months before we started dating.
Yeah, so I've only been a fan since 2016, yeah.
Yeah.
But I didn't read any of the comics or follow any of that stuff like you did.
Neither did I.
But you were more knowledgeable on it than I still am.
Yeah, I grew up with the cartoons. Like whichever Spider-Man cartoon was on for that year, because there were so many Spider-Man cartoons.
Yeah, I think everybody obviously knows who Spider-Man is.
Yeah.
But I remember watching...
I'm saying, like, I didn't grow up with the comics.
Yeah.
Did I talk about it last week? Anyway, we've spoken about it plenty. I'm really into all this stuff, but I'm also really into, like, mythology and gods and monsters and stuff like that. And superheroes are just modern day myths and legends and gods and monsters, let's say. That's why I really like them. It not just all like cool punchy man, although it is awesome, and I defy you to tell me that this movie does not have amazing action. But I've just always been really interested in that whole with great power comes great responsibility aspect, which just sums up every superhero ever. But yeah.
I remember watching Hulk. It must have been the first Hulk movie.
Who was the actor? What did the Hulk look like? Was he like fluoro green?
It was like really big and green.
Yeah.
I remember him like stomping a car, and there was like his girlfriend or something, and it was like
Alright,
dark.
so you've just described every Hulk thing ever.
It was when...
How many years ago was it? How old were you, roughly?
I don't remember. I would have been pretty young because I can only remember flashes of the movie. I just remember like his shirt ripping, like the first time he ever turned into Hulk.
Again, that doesn't narrow it down a great deal.
Like the first time ever, he was like, "What is happening to me?"
Yeah, so the Hulk in 2003.
Would have been that, yeah.
Yeah, with Eric Banner was Bruce Banner.
I think so.
Yeah. And his Hulk was really bright green and more cartoony looking. Yeah. I haven't seen that movie in years. I remember it being like, there was some cool stuff in it, but, you know.
Anyway, way off track.
No, we're not. We're talking about superhero stuff.
Yeah, but we're talking about Hulk.
True.
He wasn't even in this movie.
He's referenced.
Yeah.
By Thunderbolt Ross. Spoilers. Yeah, it's a Marvel movie. There's not much to talk about. It's the same with Toy Story 3. It's like...
Everybody knows about it.
Yeah.
It's just good
the
movies.
Big thing. Or it was. The MCU was the big thing. And ever since Endgame, which I'll talk more about a little bit on, but ever since Endgame, it's not petered off, but they're going in a very different direction now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, the Russo Brothers, or if they lived here, we'd probably call them the Russo Brothers. Anthony Russo and Joe Russo directed. Before this, they directed a lot of. I don't know if it's a lot of, but I haven't really seen it. Community. So they did that, and then they got Captain America: The Winter Soldier, which is fantastic. I don't think we'll ever get to talk about it though. I don't think it was number 1 in 2014. But then they got offered this, and then they got offered Infinity War, and with Infinity War came Endgame.
Yeah.
So they made one very successful movie, then a $1 billion movie, then another $1 billion movie, and then I'm pretty sure, and we'll talk about it in the episode where we talk about Endgame, I'm pretty sure it cracked... Did it get $2 billion? It was a ridiculous amount of money. I mean, all of this is just so much money. Like $250 million to make a movie. It's just...
I can't even imagine that much money. And then making like over $1 billion. What was the exact figure of this movie?
For its box office?
Yeah.
$1,153,296,293.
Yeah, I can't even imagine that much money.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
That's like more money than you could spend in one lifetime.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd try. I'd really try.
Same.
I'd have so many jet skis.
Really?
Yeah, but mostly to just give to family. Because that's all we've...
You have a jet ski. You have a jet
I'd be
ski.
like Oprah.
You have a jet ski.
Alright, so... What are we talking about?
Jet skis are overrated anyway.
No, they're not.
They hurt your butt.
How dare you?
When you go over the waves and you just come crashing down. I would not buy a jet ski. I would buy a boat.
What? I didn't say I wouldn't buy a boat. I just said I'd buy a bunch of jet skis. Because then I could have a jet ski gang.
You and your family.
Yeah.
Non-spoiler review.
We didn't talk about the production.
Oh.
Every friggin' week we do this. Now it's time for the non-spoilers. Oh, we didn't do production. Or vice versa. You got me the first week.
We said who the directors were and
That's
how much
nothing.
it made.
Alright, so the directors... Anthony and Joe Russo, screenplay by Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely. I can't off the top of my head remember other things that they've done, but I feel like I hear that name or read those names, on that many friggin' credits.
Yeah.
Especially Stephen McFeely. Maybe it just stands out more.
It's just a familiar name. Yeah.
Based on Captain America by Joe Simon and Jack Kirby. Obviously, Captain America was created during World War II as like a "you can do it" kind of thing to sell war bonds.
Yeah.
Which they poke fun at in the first movie, but we're not here to talk about that.
Nope.
It stars, this is a long list, Chris Evans as Captain America, Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow, Sebastian Stan as the Winter Soldier, Anthony Mackie as the Falcon, Don Cheadle as War Machine, Jeremy Renner as Hawkeye, Chadwick Boseman, rest in peace, as Black Panther, Paul Bettany as the Vision, Elizabeth Olsen as Wanda Maximoff. She doesn't become Scarlet Witch until later.
Okay.
She's just Wanda.
Yeah. That's a cool name.
It is a cool name, but I mean, who doesn't want a superhero name, you know?
Yeah, I suppose.
Although when your name is Wanda Maximoff...
Yeah, you already sound like a superhero.
I would never agree that that's a real name.
No.
You know? Paul Rudd as Ant-Man, Emily Van Camp as Sharon Carter, Tom Holland as...
Spider-Man.
He's in the trailers, yeah, that's right, Spider-Man. I just didn't want to say it in case there's one person on this planet who hasn't seen this movie. Frank Grillo as Crossbones, William Hurt as General? Is it General? I can't remember. Thunderbolt Ross, and Daniel Bruhl as a person. I don't want to spoil his... Again, obviously, everybody who's going to listen to this has seen the movie, but got to do right by the fans.
Yep.
Yeah, Daniel Bruhl is a character in this movie. Everyone else we listed is a returning character.
Yeah.
He's the only one who... Oh, sorry. Chadwick Boseman is introduced in this, but he's in the trailer as Black Panther, I think. And who doesn't know that he's Black Panther?
Yeah.
Was Black Panther. Also William Hurt, rest in peace, passed away a few days ago. Both Chadwick Boseman and he were terrific actors, and I know Chadwick Boseman was in his 40s, I think 43, I want to say, when he died, which is just tragically young. William Hurt was, I think, 72, still very young these days to die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very sad.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah.
Daniel Bruhl's character is introduced in this movie. You'll probably know who he is because this is Captain America Civil War, but we'll talk about it in spoilers because, as we said before, we want to do it right. We want to be accommodating. Okay. I don't have much to talk about this production-wise other than the stunts. And a lot of that comes into play in spoilers. I just want to say it goes for 147 minutes, which is 2.5 hours, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, it did drag on a bit.
There's definitely things they could have cut out of this.
Yeah. They sort of lost me in the first half.
Sorry, you reminded me of that meme. Had us in the first half, not gonna lie.
Yeah, well, they didn't have me in the first half.
We were talking about it this morning. There was, like I said, I can remember the start of this movie very well, so I didn't need to take too many notes other than some things I noticed. And I remembered the back half of this movie very well.
Yeah.
But that first act and first half of the second act, that stuff I remembered, but not in any sort of the same detail as I did the rest of the movie. Mostly because it's a lot of setup, which is fine, and it's all good, but it doesn't have as much of an impact.
No.
But when you go back and watch it, well, when we went back and watched it, there's some scenes that I'll talk about that I was like, yeah, nice.
Yeah, most of what I have to say about it would be included in spoilers, so I'll wait. But the beginning of the movie didn't grab me.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, Marvel Studios and made by Marvel Studios and distributed by Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures. That's the people who are eventually going to rise up and enslave us all.
Yep.
Sorry, rise up, as if they aren't the top.
Take over the world.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess we'll just talk about the non-spoiler stuff, because I think all of my production stuff, like I said, is spoilers.
Yeah, yeah.
And again, it's a Marvel movie. There's not much to spoil, but we shouldn't treat it as a Marvel movie. One of the big things that I really was interested in with this was to go into it, because I've seen pretty much all of them. I think there's only one or two that I haven't seen. But I've seen, pretty much all of these. And when I was younger, I used to think, oh, it's so good that, like, if you watch this movie, then this thing will make more sense. Or if you watch that movie, this thing will make more sense. But I really wanted to go into this with the attitude of, this is a movie. Yes, it's a sequel. And I know with sequels, it's the third in a trilogy. I know with a sequel, there are things that will be called back to from other movies. And it's also a sort of sequel to the Avengers movies.
Yeah.
Not so, it's like, so there are a few allowances I have with references that might go over some people's heads, but I really wanted to go into it with the attitude of, this movie, as any movie, should stand on its own 2 feet, and you should understand what's going on. Just
if you haven't watched the others.
There's only 2 examples that I can think of where I don't think that applies, and that's Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2, and Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, which are clearly movies that are supposed to be
watched one after another.
Yeah, they're supposed to be like one long thing, and they make no secret of that. And so I give an allowance to those types. I'm sure there's others, but I give an allowance to those. But this doesn't say that, doesn't do that. It is just Captain America Civil War. So you should go into it and watch it and not go, what's that? Who's that? What are they talking about?
Yeah, and it's okay to have some, comments or conversations that do, like, lead back to the other movies, but for the most part, you should be able to watch this like I did. I don't think I've seen any of the other Captain Americas. I've only seen this one. You should, and I was able to watch it. Obviously, I'm aware of the other characters because I've seen other Marvel movies, but this movie on its own, I could watch it without being like, well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember you did say about when we watched Infinity War, you were like, this is just noise. And I think that, because it's part 1, it doesn't do it as well as this movie does with setting up characters. But we'll talk about that properly another time. But with this, it was hard. I haven't watched this movie for a fair while, but I watched it a few times a few years ago. And Yeah, we'll talk more about it in spoilers, as with everything, but I agree. Thinking about it, I didn't go, oh, well, if you haven't seen the other ones, you won't have any clue what that means. Because there are movies where they're just a standalone movie where characters will talk to each other like human beings and reference things that happen in their shared past that they don't go, oh yeah, you remember when we went to that place and we did that thing and we did this and that happened and do you remember that? And then the other person goes, yes, I remember that. And do you also remember this detail when that happened? Wow, wasn't that crazy? They just go, yeah, there was that. And the other person goes, yeah. Because that's how people interact.
Yeah, normal humans, that's how they converse.
Yeah, my favourite stuff in this movie, parts I should say, my favourite parts in this movie, well, it's hard. Sometimes it feels like two different movies, but there's two scenes other than the action, but as far as characters go, that I really loved. And
is this a spoiler?
it is definitely a spoiler.
Save it.
Yeah, well, one wasn't so much, but generally the scenes where Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans are on screen together throughout the whole movie, but in especially a couple of bits, are my favourite bits in the movie because they have amazing chemistry. Yeah. Which, yes, you don't just need chemistry when it's romantic. You need to have the right feeling and vibe between all characters, and I don't think it really falls short anywhere. And there are a lot of awkward bits, but they're meant to be awkward because a lot of characters meet for the first time. And it's called Civil War for a reason. There's opposing sides, and it's friends, or pretty much family up against each other. And there's a lot of awkward, like, should we take this seriously or not? And then some of them are like joking around with each other, and other ones are just absolutely belting them. And then newer characters are in there, and they're just, some of them are just like, yeah, I'll do that, whatever. And they just go head first into things, and then, yeah. I just wanted to give like a bit of talk about it because
it's in the title, so it's not.
Yeah,
not really a spoiler.
It is first and foremost a Captain America movie, but a lot of the time it feels like Avengers 2.5.
Yeah,
which is fine. I mean, it's a comic book movie. The big problem with the first few movies in the MCU was that there weren't, like, Iron Man 3, for example, which I think we'll be talking about at some point.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, a big thing in that happens, and then, like, the whole third act, I was sitting there going, this is after the Avengers, where are the Avengers? Like, I get that Thor's in Asgard and all that sort of stuff, but, like, where's Captain America? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this really fixed that in my mind, and it was like, there was the Avengers movies, but those are supposed to be the team-up movies. But this was the first one, off the top of my head, where all the characters were just there, and stuff was going on, and it wasn't like
a team-up, let's go fight this bad guy.
It was, you see real people really interacting. All the characters talk exactly how they would. They all have, a lot of them have smart-ass remarks when somebody starts talking, or they have little quips and they have little ways of talking. I mean, it's MCU, so everybody quips, but, well, almost everyone. But they feel like not just real people, but they're real interactions. Yeah. And they talk to each other the way, like, Captain America and Iron Man are the two leaders, right, of the Avengers. So they talk to each other in a different way than, say, Captain America talks to the Vision or Wanda Maximoff. He treats them, especially Wanda, because she's quite young. One of them says she's a kid.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure she's supposed to be like our age, but I don't know.
Yeah, that was a weird comment. I was going to ask you how old she is in the movie.
I think yeah, she'd probably be about she'd be younger than 25.
Yeah, but I suppose what they mean is, like, she's new to all of this.
Yeah, she's definitely by far the youngest, other than Spider-Man. Because he's young. Spider-Man's always he's
high school, college, yeah.
Well, That's not really a spoiler.
No.
It's Spider-Man. What do you expect? You're not going to have full-fledged Spider-Man rock up in this movie and then be like, where the hell was he, in the Battle of New York or whatever. He's baby Spider-Man. My first fresh Spider-Man. All right.
Baby.
That's pretty much all we can talk about without spoiling it.
Yeah.
We'll be talking about a lot of the stunts and the effects and things that we noticed. Yeah, but I suppose we'll just
head into.
We didn't really give a rundown of the events of the movie. That was still talking about our feelings on it, but do you want to just give a little rundown of the events?
So it's basically about, like, something happens where they have to decide whether to join. Well, what do you see in the trailer? What's the basic theme of the movie?
The basic theme of the movie is, should the Avengers operate on their own or
under a different...
No, under the command of, like, a government panel, say, and whether or not that is appropriate or whether or not they should have free reign to do what they want and make decisions.
Or be under a bit more control.
Yeah. And people take sides when any big thing happens or comes along. People often, there's people in the middle who are like, oh, it's not really good on either side, but it's not really bad on either side. We could still be doing good. Maybe I'll just retire. Maybe I'll just do it in secret and be a criminal. Maybe, that sort of thing. And then there's people on one side saying, yes, we should do this. And then there's people on the other side saying, no, to quote the character that believes that, the safest hands are still our own. They are like, and I think it is really interesting the characters that pick which sides.
Yeah.
So then that is sort of a pretty minor issue at first. It's kind of like, that's crap. But then there's also some other stuff going on that escalates things. And then, because it's happening, the government is very much involved in this compared to the first two, well, I was going to say the first two Avengers movies, but when Avengers were doing stuff before, they were doing it on their terms, and now the government and the militaries of the world are much more involved in this.
Yeah, a bit more hands-on.
Yeah, because by this point, there's no shield.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it just escalates and escalates and escalates, and that's all we'll say. Yep, so that's our little talk about, like, the non-spoiler stuff in this movie. Last week we couldn't say much about the movie Buried because everything was a spoiler.
Yeah.
But this movie we can give a rundown, and, you've probably seen the movie before.
Yeah.
So, with that, we'll start our spoiler review. And the same as we started it last week, we should have done it from the start, but we'll give a countdown. And then we'll get straight into spoilers. And it's full on serious. We're not mucking around here, Chiefs. So, 3, 2, 1. It's spoiler time. Big bash at the end. Big on fight. Big old fight. I think we should do that from now on. We'll be just talking about the ending.
Yeah.
So people who were stupid and stuck around, just cop it. Iron Man gets his head kicked in at the end. He suffers his first really brutal loss.
Yeah, it was pretty brutal.
Yeah. So, because there would have been almost nobody who switched off there, because I can't think of many people who wouldn't have seen this movie or would care about spoilers.
Yeah, even if it gets spoiled...
It's in the trailer.
Is it?
Sorry, go on with what you were going to say.
I was going to say, most people are probably familiar with these characters and what they do and blah, blah, blah.
Captain America and Iron Man, it's in the trailers several times, not just the fight at the airport, which, you expect a bit of a dust-up, but the actual climactic fight where it looks all intense, there's bits of that in the trailer.
Well, there you go.
So yeah, it's, it does what it says on the tin.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, there's really not a lot you can say about this movie. Except for in the beginning, it was good.
Mm.
It's like some action and
the cold open, I think they call it.
yeah, but then when they
Oh no, sorry. Do you mean the bit in Russia where it shows the Winter Soldier, or do you mean the bit with?
I mean when it actually starts
In Nigeria.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah. That was good because it was action and there was stuff going on and all that. But then once that sort of ended and Wanda burns the top of the building, and then they get introduced. They get told that
The Sokovia Accords.
yeah. Once all that stuff sort of starts, I just was lost.
Switched off?
Yeah, I was like, oh, boring meetings. You do this, you do that.
Yeah.
I can't even really remember it because I just.
Well, I can help you. So it opens on the Winter Soldier being pulled out of his cryo sleep or whatever. Also known as Bucky Barnes, Captain America's best buddy, best mate, who we found out in the movie before this, well, not the movie before this, the Captain America movie before this, that he didn't die. He was revived, he's the Winter Soldier and all that. So in this, carries on from that, where it shows us back in 1991 that there's a certain few phrases that you use to bring him not back to life, to pull him into your command.
Put him in that mode,
So they zap his brain, and then they read out a bunch of words, which we didn't write down because who cares.
Yeah.
And then in Russian, not in English, in Russian, because it's Russian Hydra agents that have got him. And then they send him out on assassination missions, and we see him take down Howard and Marie.
But we don't know it's them.
Well, we don't know we're in spoilers. They know. Yeah. I think her name's Marie Stark. Tony's mum's name. It just says Stark's parents here. I can't remember. Mary. I can't remember. She's in it. I think this is the only movie where she actually shows up. Yeah. It's usually about his dad, Howard, whenever he has parental issues or whatever. She's just referenced a couple of times. But it's he doesn't care that the Winter Soldier killed his dad because his dad was a dickhead.
Yeah, he said that.
Yeah, his dad was a lot like him, just a bit of a dickhead with a good conscience most of the time. But his mum was apparently really lovely, and that's what he said. Yeah, he says Captain America's like, oh, don't do this, and he says, I don't care. He killed my mum.
Yeah.
Which, fair enough. I've heard a lot of people say, oh, he should have known that the Winter Soldier was under mind control, or that, he should have just really been like, oh, this could be a trick.
You'd still be upset anyway.
Yeah. If I rocked up to this place and was like, this guy that I already don't really like that much, it turns out, and I've probably got a concussion because he has a great big black eye, and he's distressed because his best mate, like they're pretty much brothers, Rhodes, War Machine, just broke his lacerated spinal cord.
Learn to sort of walk.
Well, he didn't even know that at that stage. They were still doing tests when he left to go do this, and you watch a video of your parents being murdered
by the guy standing right next to you.
Of course he's gonna have that reaction.
Yeah, even if you're aware that he was under mind control, he's standing right there and he's physically the person who did it. So you're gonna be upset and you're gonna want to bash him.
He doesn't know how the mind control works. Like, they can say mind control all they want, but it could just be like, you still have free will other than, certain things. You know what I mean? It's just to keep you in line. Like, because you can say mind control with anything. It's just like hypnotism or manipulation or whatever. And you can say, oh, I was mind controlled or brainwashed or whatever. But I'd still kill the person who killed my parents.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
me too.
Especially if I just watched a bloody video.
Yeah, and they're right there.
Yeah.
It's not like you can go and find the people
yeah.
who put him under this mind control.
And as we see at the start, or early on, when Tony Stark's introduced into this movie, he didn't get to say goodbye to his parents because him and his dad always came to blows. Like, he gave his mum a kiss goodbye, but he pretends to in the BARF, BARF, retro something,
Yeah.
by something augmented retro framing, I think they call it.
That thing.
Yeah, BARF. But he didn't get, like, his parents left him on bad terms.
Yeah.
Or not, at least not very good terms. And he didn't get that goodbye that everybody really, like, even some of the worst people on earth deserve, that sort of thing. You know what I mean?
Was he a teenager?
He was meant to be 21 or 22.
Yeah.
He was still in college, I think.
That,
because he was home for winter break.
yeah. That, was it like a holographic?
The de-aging stuff that they do.
Yeah, that looked so weird.
Did it look good to you?
No.
You don't reckon?
No.
This is probably the movie where it stood out the most because it's hard to make a 50-year-old man look like a 20-year-old man. But they do it in some of the other movies. In Ant-Man, they do it with Michael Douglas. He's like 70 or so in real life, but they de-age him and he looks like he's like 40, and it is spot on.
Oh, well, they didn't do a very good job in this movie.
I think they did about as good as they could. And also, I don't think it matters for this that it doesn't look as good.
Yeah, just when it first came on screen, I was like, why does he look like that?
Yeah. I remember seeing it and I was like, wow, is this going to be like, is this an actual flashback? Oh, I did think it was a flashback. But then his mum was like, you know what's going to happen next. And I was like, oh, this is a nightmare. And then you see him in the background. And I was like, oh,
yeah,
it's something.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. How does he show it on stage? Is it like a...
It's lights.
Yeah, like a holographic thing? Yeah.
That's why I think it doesn't matter that he doesn't look as good. Because... And it's weird how... Wouldn't it be first person?
Like seeing it from his point of view.
So it's third person view. We're seeing the scene, but wouldn't it be if it's his memories?
Yeah.
See, that's why it's okay that it doesn't look, his face doesn't look good, because he's constructing that. And the hardest face, as far as I know, to master is your own. Because you see other people constantly and you can get all their stuff, but your own face... You never see it the same way
as
that
other
another
people
human sees it. You look in a mirror, it's not the same. You take a photo, it's not the same.
Yeah.
So I think that if he created that, that's why it doesn't look as good there.
Yeah.
And that's how they get away with it. But it's interesting stuff. I mean, it is damn good. Like, it didn't trigger my, as we talked about in a couple of weeks ago, the Uncanny Valley effect. It didn't trigger that for me. Whereas there was a movie, Tron Legacy, where somebody is de-aged.
Yeah.
Looks like a PlayStation 4 friggin' cutscene.
Character, yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say, it triggered that, but it was weird to look at. I was like, what is going on here?
Fair enough.
They could have just got someone that looked like him.
But...
And then change it a bit.
Yeah, for like a 2-second scene, and because it's supposed to be... augmented reality.
Yeah, true.
It's fine.
Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, we spent too long on this. So, then he gets confronted by a woman whose son was in Sokovia and died there during one of the Avengers things.
Yeah.
So, I suppose we don't really need to give a rundown of the movie. But basically, then it's the Sokovia Accords and they argue, and I'll get into the scene that I really like there. But what I wanted to mostly talk about with this movie was, how does it fare as a movie on its own? Yes, it's a sequel. I said all this before. Yes, it's a sequel, but it's a movie on its own. How does it fare on its own? And what I compared it most to were other superhero movies or TV shows that drop you into the middle of the world as it's going. So The Boys, Invincible, when they start, you're in it. You know, the world is an established world.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the MCU at this point wasn't really a superhero world. Like, the MCU now is a superhero world. Like, people talk about superheroes. It's not all hush-hush. It's out in the open. Superheroes do superheroics publicly a lot more. But this was like a shift from, as what I like to call, like, militaristic superheroism in the MCU. And then now it's more of, like, the public... just people doing superheroics because they want to, not because they're part of the Avengers or whatever.
Yeah.
So, you know, like, you start off with, like, your Iron Man is a war profiteer, arms dealer. Captain America was a World War II soldier who was transformed into a super soldier. Falcon was a former pilot who used those wings and then you know, became an Avenger using those. War Machine was a colonel and a pilot. Captain Marvel, who, yeah, she came in later, but she was also a fighter pilot. Black Widow and Hawkeye were, one's a spy and one, I think it's implied, he's pretty much like a special ops soldier who just went more and more into special stuff. And then the only really different ones there are Hulk and Thor, even though Thor is a warrior god, or alien in this, but you know, and the Hulk was creating... He got turned into the Hulk because he was trying to recreate the superhero serum, super soldier serum for the military.
Yeah.
And then now it's different.
Yeah.
So I've gone way off track, but I just wanted to talk about, like, when it drops you into this movie, how real does the world feel? And how easily is it to watch this movie? And we touched on it before, and you said it was pretty easy. And it was hard for me to go into it without being like, oh, I remember that, and just going, what other movies I've ever seen where they reference stuff that's happened in the past? Or, like, a character might show up, and we don't need to see that they have some sort of past with a character, but something that these characters have done in the past comes back to play now. And it's not a mystery, because assuming that you've seen Age of Ultron, the big thing about this is... they're called the Sokovia Accords because the Age of Ultron movie ended with a big fight battle in Sokovia, and pretty much the entire city was destroyed.
Yeah, pretty horrific.
Yeah, for the bystanders.
Yeah.
But if you go back and watch that movie, there's a lot of one-liners and a lot of jokes and a lot of, like, she be right sort of attitude.
Yeah.
And even though they do show a lot of the destruction, afterwards it's meant to be like, yep, Avengers saved the day.
Yeah.
No worries.
Yeah, well, and that's pretty much what this whole movie is about, and I'm glad that it's finally addressed, because when you watch an Avengers movie, or, you know, any of these MCU movies, when they save the day at the end of the movie and it's like this big action and everything, what you don't realize is what's left behind. There's cars destroyed, buildings destroyed, people's houses, just mess.
Yes, I saw the meme that you sent me the other day.
Yeah, but that's how it is. Like,
yeah.
And then, obviously, that's what this movie is about. And it's like, hey, maybe you need to be a bit more under control.
Yeah.
And maybe when you are saving the day, you don't also kill hundreds of people.
Yeah.
And destroy property. That would take forever to rebuild. You know, because they do that, they save the day and destruction, whatever, and then they just leave.
Yeah.
And, like, the bad guy in this movie says, like, they're all just left to pick up the pieces.
Yep.
All the dead people, and, yeah, pretty effed up.
That they introduce what's called damage control, which I don't know too much about it, but in another movie after this, Spider-Man Homecoming, which is funded by Stark Industries, or whatever they're called, and they're basically just an organization that cleans up the mess afterwards, which is good that he organized that, but I think and they're like professionals who know how to deal with super tech and stuff like that and make sure it goes to the right place. So what I've seen from I think comics and TV shows and stuff like that, with Marvel, we'll say, is they usually show superheroes cleaning up or like looking for survivors and doing let's punch people in the face or shoot people things to show that they are heroes, not just soldiers. And that's what I was trying to sort of touch on before, but I mostly just talked about the MCU as a whole, is when in this movie, pretty much everyone is just a soldier. They just come in, they kill or maim or wound, leave a trail of destruction and go, we got the bad guy.
Yeah,
and
see ya.
And this was like the shift from that's how it was. And, like in the first Avengers movie, it was an alien invasion. So I don't think that they should have been held too accountable for stopping it. I thought they did a pretty good job, all things considered. And in the second one, it's sort of their fault that it was happening. And I think that's why there's a lot more of a pushback in this one. And then after this, it focuses a lot more on the heroic side rather than the taking down the bad guy side, I feel.
Yeah, because I was surprised that, Captain America would be against the Sokovia Accords.
Well.
But, like you say, he's just like, oh, get in, get the bad guy, go.
Yeah. My thing, can we just keep talking about, like, how it works? Because I sort of went off track, and I think we should wrap that up before we get into this. Sorry, but I am very keen to talk about that. I thought it worked really well as a movie on its own. I think that the references that are made, like, somebody might name drop someone else, or somebody might talk about a shared thing in their past. Like, my favourite scenes, as I talked about before, were the argument between all of the Avengers after they find out about the Sokovia Accords, and the scene with Tony Stark and Steve Rogers, Iron Man and Captain America, in the office after Steve has been arrested for trying to help Bucky, the Winter Soldier. Yeah. Those are my two favourite scenes in the movie. You can give me all the action in the world, and it is great. It is like, this is world-class stuff as far as I'm concerned. A lot of it anyway. But those two scenes show so much character from everyone. The way they argue, the points that they make, the way they speak to each other, little comments and stuff like that. And you can tell that a lot of them have a big bond, and they might be it might be perceived as them being jerks to each other, but they just know each other so well. Yeah. Like when Black Widow agrees with Iron Man, and they're all like, "Hang on," and even Iron Man's like, "You're agreeing with me? What do you like? Do you wanna take that back? Like, what's going on here?" And then, little stuff like that. And I think, and when Vision starts talking and he says, "I've got an equation," and the Falcon's like, "Oh, here we go. Yeah. This will solve everything." And those little moments, I think. And it's all over, when they're chatting at the start and when it's in combat and all that. The characterization of everyone is perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can really tell that they're just a bunch of people who hang out all the time, friends, work together.
Yep.
Yeah, and even though they're fighting or disagreeing on things, that they're going to be okay in the end.
You know what it feels like? Dare I say it? The Office. A little bit, clashing characters, although in The Office they mostly aren't really friends.
Yeah.
But I think that probably comes from...
But they're friends because they work together.
Yeah, but the screenwriters would be very good at writing dialogue, clearly, but also the directors they directed episodes of Community, which is pretty much just this, without them being superheroes. It's just a bunch of people forced together who get along. Like, I haven't really seen it. I've seen a few episodes, enough to get what it's about. And it's just a bunch of people together and just sorting out problems, let's say.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a sitcom.
Yeah.
And this they've clearly taken their experience with that and, you know, driven
Put it into this.
Yeah. So I think that, yeah, it does work pretty well. Although, the stuff with Sharon Carter, the woman he kisses.
Oh my god.
It's just so
I wish
bad.
I never saw it.
Just
cut it out of the movie.
Yeah, when you find out that, or just after that scene we were talking about, when Peggy dies.
Yeah.
If you've never seen any other movie before and you watch this, you know exactly what's up. They reference that Steve is from the past, and you don't even need to know how long ago it was. You know what I mean? You just go, oh yeah, something happened to him, and now he's here. And when he got here, everyone else he knew was gone except for Peggy and Bucky.
Yeah.
And he was just happy to have them. And then when Sharon Carter, because we don't get her name in the movie before this, but Sharon Carter is introduced giving the speech. I did want to say that's Captain America's speech from Civil War in the comics. Because this is based on Civil War. It's just called Civil War in the comics, where Iron Man and Captain America fight. That's it's not about control of the Avengers. It's about they should publicly release their identities. And it's apparently it's way better than this, but I mean, when you don't have to pay actors and you can just draw stuff.
You're saying the speech she did at the funeral.
So the speech that she did at the funeral, which is a speech that Peggy Carter, her great aunt, apparently gave to her, is a speech direct, like word for word, as far as I know, from the comics. It's a speech that Captain America gives Spider-Man. I think it's really good that he didn't have that speech, but Peggy did, because he hears that while he's weighing up whether or not to sign, and is like, jog on.
Yeah. The kiss was very awkward. Like I said before, just cut it out of the movie. You don't see it coming. Like, you can see that they have some sort of connection going on, and then just the way he goes in to kiss her, you don't think that that's what's going to happen, and then it happens, and you're like, oh, okay.
He looks like he's going to kiss his grandma. He's like, oh, come here.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, that was, and she's like, late. And I'm like, what do you friggin' mean? They had, in the second movie, she's in it for like 3 scenes. And they have a bit of chemistry there. But in this, they might as well be brother and sister.
Yeah, you don't really get... Yeah. You're like, oh, there's a hint of a little connection there, but it was very out of nowhere.
It's the only... And I think that Emily Van Camp, the actress, she's great. She does all of her stuff well. They just don't have much chemistry.
No.
But, like...
It seems a bit forced because... I don't know if for him, like... He's reminded of Peggy.
I think it's stuff like that.
That just makes it even more weird. And I don't know. Yeah.
Dirty
and
old
she's
man.
Just like, yeah, Captain America.
Yeah. Well, a little bit, I think. I mean, who wouldn't be? Captain America, or more like Captain Swole America. You see his biceps in that helicopter scene? I literally wrote that. I literally wrote Captain Swole America. He even flips his hand around, so he's doing like the curl motion, and it looks like he's looking at his bicep. And I was just like, yeah, gains, bro, nice, yeah, just I can appreciate
big
a good
muscles.
bicep. He's a superhero. He's got to look the part.
Yep.
Although, and again, this is a movie that should stand on its own, so the comics don't come into it. But I do think it's interesting that they changed it. Where in the comics he's just as fast as a human could be, or as strong as a human could be. But in this, he's running faster than cars and, you know, like jumping out of buildings and surviving no worries and all that sort of stuff. And I think... And yeah, holding helicopters down.
One hand on the helicopter and one hand on the building.
It's interesting that they leveled him up so much. And I think you see it in this more than the other two. Or even any of the other movies up until this point.
Well, it is his movie.
It is his... Well, Iron Man he's in there a fair bit.
Yeah. My favourite scenes were when Bucky grabs the motorcycle when they're in that car chase, and spins around and he jumps on the back of the bike.
Is that what you can appreciate?
Yeah, I really like that
You
scene.
can't appreciate Chris Evans' muscles. But you can appreciate
I can appreciate
Sebastian Stan's legs.
just the way the scene was, where it slowed down. You got this intense car chase scene, and then
we can talk about that because I was looking at the stunt stuff just before we started recording. That was all real.
He did that.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it was Sebastian Stan. I think it was, but somebody really did that.
Yeah, that was cool.
I was watching. Should give them a shout out, as if they need it.
From us.
Yeah. Corridor Crew does a Stuntman Reacts series. I love it. I really like stunts. It's opened my eyes a hell of a lot. It's made me realize that pretty much anytime you can't see an actor's face, it's not them.
Yeah.
With stunts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes, I mean, there's exceptions like Tom Cruise, but he's a deranged lunatic, and I mean that in the nicest way possible. He is. I love it because it pushes. I believe it pushes other movies like I almost said Fallout, like the Mission Impossible movies. The last one was called Fallout. To do more proper stunts and practical effects and things like that. And I am a big believer in practical effects. Well, I was even more until the Corridor Crew also has a series called VFX Artists React.
Yeah, yeah.
Where there are things that are visual effects in movies, like CGI, that I never would have guessed. Things here's how VFX should work. If you don't know it's there, it's done its job.
Yeah.
The same as music, like the score, not songs, like the score. That's for anybody who doesn't know, that's the music, just all the time.
The sound.
That's non-diegetic sound. So diegetic sound is sound that the characters are making and can hear, and what's happening in the world of the movie. And then the score or other things like that is the music and or songs or stuff like, or sound effects that are the audience, that are for the audience.
Yeah.
So if the score is great, you won't notice it unless they want you to notice it. Guy De Silva, I think is his name, was the Black Panther stunt double. And by stunt double, I mean he was mostly Black Panther.
Yeah, because his face is covered, Black Panther.
Yeah.
His suit, he's completely covered, so... Yeah.
And no disrespect to any of the actors, their job is to act and perform, and the stunt crew, let's say, stunt team and stunt performers, their job is to take the hits and make things look better and real when it's not necessary for an actor to be the one doing it. Yeah. So oftentimes if an actor demands to do something and they're not very good at it, you're like, oh, that was a bit crap.
Yeah.
But if you get somebody with a helmet on and get a stunt guy in there, or lady, I can't remember if there was any that were talking about that were on that Corridor Crew. That's the only really thing I've seen with stunt people. I know there was one woman on there, but I don't think she'd done Marvel stuff. I can't remember. But anyway, I watched one with Guy De Silva, who's Black Panther, and he's been in a bunch of the Marvel stuff. And the other guy, I can't remember his name, it was Falcon stunt double. And he's also really good. I watched a bit of his one, but I can't remember his name. And they were talking about the jump that Black Panther does. So you know how Bucky jumps off of the roof, and then Black Panther comes down, they fight, and then he chases him, and then he jumps and he, like, with his claws slides down. That was real.
Wow.
He had wires on him, and he just jumped and then was, like, up against it.
Yeah.
And then he said that there was enough impact that it's not like, what did he compare it to? The Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, where they have you seen those like kung fu movies where they where they jump on tree branches and stuff like that? He said it's all wire work, but they do it in a way that there's still impact.
Because so it looks real.
Yeah, and following on from that, when they're running in the tunnel, all real.
Yeah.
Maybe there's CGI, VFX, whatever you want to call it, in there, like on little things, and they take out what's called the magic carpet. So Bucky, then Black Panther. Bucky is the Winter Soldier. That's just, he starts off as the Winter Soldier, becomes Bucky, let's say. And then Black Panther and then Captain America are all running. And they're all super soldiers, so they're all really fast.
Yeah.
And they're running past the cars, and that's all real. So they put them on this magic carpet and tow it behind a car. I don't really know how it works, but basically you just run on it and it just makes you look crazy fast.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I don't know I don't know if it's just a thing that they tow or if it moves or whatever, but they just take out the thing itself, and they might do something with their feet because otherwise, but I don't know. And then when Captain America jumps out of the car and it rolls behind him and he's running, that's all real.
Yeah,
Except
that was cool.
the car is further back.
Yeah.
So, and there's all destruction around him, but the stuff falling is CGI. But I didn't even think about it when it was happening.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just going to say, and like when they're like on the backs of cars and stuff, all real. So sorry, you go.
Yeah, like in the behind the scenes you see Black Panther just holding onto the car while it's literally driving.
Yep, that's all real guys doing real mad shit, bro.
Yeah, that was a cool scene.
They deserve so much more money and so much more recognition because holy crap. Those were all the notes I had on stunts, other than, it's all good. Oh, there was one thing in the opening thing with the Avengers where they tip the truck and it smashes through all that stuff, the barricade and everything. Yep, that was all practical.
Yeah,
they actually did that.
Yeah.
And I think that for pretty much everything you should do it practically, and then you can enhance it with CGI. The trouble is when they try too hard to blend CGI with real things. Yeah. Is there anything about the story you wanted to talk about, like problems?
Some of the action scenes, especially in the beginning when they're in Nigeria, the camera work, like the action and everything was cool, but the camera work was, I don't know if you noticed, it was shaky. I thought it was hard to focus and I almost felt like car sick. I
did have some notes on that. What did you mean specifically?
Just the camera work when they're following the fights. I remember specifically between Black Widow and whoever she was fighting. Yeah. It was like shaking and jolting. I couldn't focus on what was on the screen.
I know exactly what you mean. Like, Falcon comes in smoothly and kicks those guys. Captain America comes in smoothly and hits a bunch of guys and stuff. And Wanda's the same. When Black Widow comes in, it cuts like 10 times.
Yeah.
And in the first one, I was like, was that too many cuts to follow? And I was like, oh, and I wrote like almost too many cuts when she fights all those guys and then fights Crossbones.
Yeah.
But then later when she comes in and she fights those other two guys, I was like, what is even going on?
Yeah.
It was cutting halfway through a motion, so it would cut and then it would cut to another angle of that, but it was, I'm going to flex my knowledge here, and it's probably going to be said wrong. I think it was Jackie Chan was like, I think it was him. If you're going to hit someone and it's filmed, right, when you cut, it should be half a second earlier. So you cut when the fist is going towards them, and when it goes to the other angle, it's half a second behind, so you see sort of that movement again, but it's still a quick cut so you can follow it.
Yeah.
Whereas if I throw a punch and you cut as I'm throwing it, you cut as my arm's moving, and then when you cut to, my fist would hit the person, and you probably wouldn't follow it very good if it was that quick. And there was the same when she jumps up and her legs go around that one guy, and it cuts and it looks like she spun further than she had, but I don't think she had, but because of the way it's done, it feels like you're missing something.
Yeah, it felt like jolty.
Yeah.
And hard to follow, and hard to focus. Very shaky and messy, I thought. But for the most part, the rest of the action scenes were done really well.
Yeah. Those were probably the only two bits where I was like,
Yeah, it does kind of feel like two different movies.
With those couple of scenes of hers. And the rest.
The beginning fight scenes didn't match the ending fight scenes. I think felt very different.
The difference between the Avengers when they're at their best and they are just taking down bad guys. They are just bam, 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 taking down bad guys. And when they're fighting their friends, I think that's... the fact that we notice means they did their job.
Yeah, true.
And I remember... a big problem everyone had with like Age of Ultron was that the good guys just won too easily. And I think this shows why that is, because when they're at their best, even if it's only the only one who had any sort of like mystic, the only one who had any real powers in this, that scene you're talking about, was Wanda.
Yeah.
Because Black Widow, who I maintain has superhero serum, super soldier serum in her, even though it's never said, but how could she do the things she does without it? The Falcon, he's got tech and he's trained. And Captain America, yeah, he's a super soldier, but he could still get, like, he can't deflect bullets with his mind. No. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For those four to just take these people down as easily as they did, and the only problem they had was Captain America got distracted when Crossbones mentions Bucky, and Wanda is inexperienced with carting an explosion and blows up half a building.
Yeah.
You know.
Wanda is the most awkward one to me. When you see her in the behind the scenes when they don't have all the special effects, her hands are just moving, and that would be so awkward to do. Like you're just moving your hands, and you've got to pretend. It's just awkward.
I think she made a comment in the behind the scenes, Elizabeth Olsen, that I thought was really interesting. She was like, I'm not just shooting laser beams at robots in this one. And at first I was like, oh, geez, that's a bit friggin' harsh. Then I was like, oh no, she's right. She does a little bit of hand wavy stuff in Age of Ultron, which she's introduced. But it's mostly just like fireball.
Yeah.
Not that she's shooting fireballs, but but in this, she sucks the gas out of a room. She lifts up Captain America. She pulls cars, and she does the motions. She's not just waving her hands around. She does like a pinching sort of motion and pulls things out. And when she pushes Vision down, she grabs that red power or whatever and she expands it outwards and then like twists it around and pushes it onto him. And I think that it is a testament to Captain America, or Chris Evans I should say, he has that shield with him, and Robert Downey Jr. is wearing at least the chest piece of the armor, and they've both been doing it for years, and Ant-Man is in the suit, and Hawkeye, I should use their actor names. Paul Rudd is in the suit, and Jeremy Renner has a bow with him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, she has nothing.
Yeah, she's in a leather vest and a leather jacket, and she has to wave her hands around. And I think that's a different kind of acting that these days you have to do it. Yeah. It's the same as those actors when it's just a green screen set. And you have to react to things that aren't there. She has to pretend to be doing things that aren't happening. Yeah. I think that's she does a good job of it.
Yeah, I think so too.
And you might go, oh, whatever about that. That's not. But in the world of the movie, if we're not like, it's weird that she did that, then that means she did a good job. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was just thinking more of not in the movie. When she's acting,
well, that's what I'm saying.
Hand movements are just awkward.
Yeah, well, you said it was only awkward to you when you saw the behind the scenes.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I was agreeing with you.
But in the movie...
You're just like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, you're like, oh, yeah, she is just summoning magic beams of power.
Yeah. What is Iron Man's beard?
It is, it's kind of facial hair somebody has when they've got an STD. It's not good.
Well, I just don't know who decided that is what his facial hair was going to look like.
You know what's interesting?
That person needs to be fired.
The promo image, for anybody who's having trouble remembering, it's a goatee So mustache comes down to his chin, and then it goes along his jawline a ways. And in a lot of the movies, it just goes a little bit, like halfway across the jawline, and that's fine. Bit strange, but it's nothing crazy. And in the promo image of them all lined up against each other, it comes down and it does that. And I was looking at it and I was like, that doesn't look too bad actually. Like that looks pretty decent, I reckon. But in the
movie, it's just the goatee down, and then it goes up, and then halfway up his jaw, it just comes up.
Yep.
Like a spike, and then continues, and then up again, like at the end of his jaw near his ear.
It doesn't go up, then up again. It goes across, up, and then so it goes all the way to almost all the way to the end of his jaw.
Yeah.
And goes up there, and then there's another spike halfway across.
Yeah, it's like two spikes.
Yeah.
Very strange.
Yeah. I just got to remember that people can't see what we're doing.
Yeah, I know. So we're doing it.
It's not like steps.
Yeah, we're doing it on our face, but
it's bad. Yeah. It's like a W on his it's almost like a W on his face. Kind of,
yeah.
Or like a really big number 3. Or an E.
A capital E, yeah.
Yeah. It's bad. It's probably the worst. Oh, no. The worst that it is in Iron Man 3. Because I was telling you, it's just a full jawline.
Yeah,
just a line.
Who decides this?
It can't be him.
No.
I know that Robert Downey Jr. has a fair bit of sway. Like, he is, up until a couple of years ago, he pretty much had the MCU on his shoulders. Him and Kevin Feige. You know. We should talk about the big thing in the movie, which is the Sokovia Accords. We talked about it a little bit before, and after this, we've only really got to talk about Daniel Bruhl's character, Zemo. What do you reckon about it? Like, do you reckon you'd pick... Which side would you pick?
Well, if I was an Avenger, I would probably be leaning more towards not signing it. Even though I do agree with some of the things that they say should change and why they have this Sokovia Accords to begin with. But I do agree with Captain America and everyone on his side. Or I'd probably be similar to Black Widow, where she's like, it's probably the right thing to do, but I don't really want to. And then, in the end, she sort of plays both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I reckon I'd sign. Mostly because if you sign, you've got all the same, and this is going to sound bad, but all the same power and resources that you had before. And you can still do good. And if something happens, like if some bad thing happens and they don't want you to go, you can always still just do it.
Yeah, you are a superhero.
See, both sides, I feel like, are right and wrong at the same time. Captain America is like, well, the safest hands are still our own, and he's right.
Yeah.
And Iron Man is like, yeah, but...
Look at all this bad stuff that happened.
And I think it makes sense that because a lot of people go, oh, Iron Man's very anti-authoritarian. Wouldn't he not want it?
Yeah.
But if you look at his past, he was a warmonger. He was a arms dealer, and he profited from death and destruction. And he really is like made a hard turn in his life to get away from that. And Black Widow has a lot of bad stuff in her past, where it's not really revealed, but she used to work for those filthy Russians.
Yeah.
And then you got like War Machine. So we might as well list off the teams and why they make sense, I feel. War Machine, he's a military man. He didn't even bat an eye at it. He was just like, yeah, all right. He was in the military. Then he was more in they were basically mercenaries. And then it's more like being back in the military. So he's like, whatever. Spider-Man is like, yes.
I'm new and fresh.
Yes,
so,
Iron Man senpai. I will do what you want.
Yes, Daddy Iron Man.
Yeah, pretty much. And Black Panther, he doesn't care.
No.
He's like, some of my people got killed, and I hate that. And we should have done... I think he's like at first he's like, yes, this is how things should be handled. Let's just kill the guy. With the stuff with Bucky.
Yeah.
So, like, the big fight, he's mostly just on Team Iron Man because he wants to get Bucky.
Yeah. His focus is a bit different because it's more personal to him.
And especially, he's very anti the Sokovia Accords because he acts outside of Wakanda all the time and does stuff all the time. He's just like, I'll do what I want. I'm a king. Yeah. Well, prince and then king because his dad gets blown up. Yeah. Great father-son relationship. They have one scene together and I was like, yep, I believe that. Yeah. I believe that this is a father and son, and I believe that they love each other. And while they have their differences, they really care about each other, and you can see their relationship. And then he dies, and you feel it. And that is a testament to both actors. Yeah. Which is, So that's, and the Vision, who is, he believes in order and everything, and he doesn't have the same emotions because he's not he's not a robot. Like, what do they call him? I can't remember. A synthezoid or some crap like that. Yeah. So that's those 6. And then it's Captain America. And they all make their decisions based on their beliefs. Yeah. Right? And Black Panther's a little bit different there, but it's pretty much all logical. You know, we'll do, other than Spider-Man. It's all, this is the right thing to do. Yeah. Whereas Captain America's team, Captain America's like, nuh-uh. You can't make me, because every time he's broken the rules, it's been the right thing to do. He jumped out of a plane and saved the 101st, or what, I think it was, it doesn't really matter, whatever platoon or squad, whatever, I don't know military terms, in World War II, saved Bucky and became Captain America for real. You know, he wasn't just a joke anymore. Yeah. That was a good thing. And then he went against S.H.I.E.L.D. and it was the right thing to do because S.H.I.E.L.D. was being taken over by Hydra. So when he's like, no, the government doesn't know what's best, in his mind, it's because every time the military or the government has gotten involved, they've effed things up. Yeah,
including this movie.
Well, yeah. This movie is a good example of why they're both right and wrong. Yeah. But yes, there's Captain America. Then there's Falcon, who's like, he was anti-military in The Winter Soldier when he got introduced. You know, he was like, I got out of there and nobody tells me what to do anymore, and I'm glad. But Captain America wants my help, so I'll help him. He says that in Captain America 2. Yeah. Hawkeye comes out of retirement because Captain America asks him to help. Bucky is just there because if Captain America wasn't there for him, he would have been dead already. Yeah. Scarlet Witch, she's like, you know, Captain America's like, they shouldn't see you as a bad guy. You should, you know, we perfect girl, you know, pretty much. And even though she should have stayed in the compound because she is dangerous. And who's their 6th? Ant-Man. Captain America needs my help. I'll help him. That's pretty much their attitude. Yeah. They're like, don't care about anything else. Captain America wants my help and I will help him. Yeah. And it's much more emotional. And Captain America is right, I feel, where he says, we should be the ones to be in control. But Iron Man is also right when he says, we need people to be there to be like, ooh, are you sure this is the right thing to do? And it's too late. If we don't do this peacefully and willingly, it will be pushed on us and it will just happen. Yeah. And then it does happen. I think I would sign, because if this was the real world, let's say, and superheroes showed up, and again, this is a world that's very fresh to the idea of enhanced, as they call them in the movies, enhanced individuals. If there was what is his name? Thunderbolt Ross compares Thor and Bruce Banner to 30 megaton nuclear bombs. So they're the 2 strongest. But let's say if there was just a bunch of people out there who were superpowered and were like, yeah, nah, we got this. Don't get out of here, government. We got this. We'll deal with this. And just left destruction wherever they came and were like, yeah, but we got the bad guy. Absolutely political oversight.
Yeah, because then they kind of become the bad guys.
Yeah.
When they're just killing people and kids and destroying houses and all of that.
Yeah. Well, was going to say something else, but I suppose that leads into Daniel Bruhl's character.
Is it Zemo?
Zemo,
yeah.
Helmut Zemo.
Yeah. His family, his wife and kids were killed.
And his dad.
Due to the Avengers killing a bad guy and leaving destruction behind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is actually all you need to know. If you've seen all the movies, you know that it's Ultron in Sokovia and all that. But that really does sum it up. It doesn't matter who it was.
Yeah.
I think it's even worse because it was their fault.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Yeah, but he suffered due to their actions. And now he's like, well, I can't kill you guys because that's just impossible. I'm just a regular dude. So I'll try and get you guys to fight each other. And then, yeah, that's why he's so obsessed with finding that file.
Yeah.
From December 16th, 1991.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
good job.
That's the the video of Bucky killing Iron Man's parents. Which obviously pins Iron Man and Captain America against each other, which is what he wanted.
Yeah, because they're the two leaders.
Yeah.
Yeah. It works. I mean, Loki brings... Sorry, just to talk about, like, Avengers level threats. Loki...
My favourite.
You guys can't see, but I rolled so hard my eyes burst.
What's wrong with that?
Just the way you said it.
My favourite.
My favourite.
I did not say it like that.
Anyway.
Loki
brings down an alien invasion on New York. And they shut that shit down in like an hour and a half. They're just like, nah. Zappity zap goes Thor. Punchy punch goes everyone else. I think that's the last movie where Black Widow just outright uses pistols. But yeah, they just shut it down. Ultron is like, yo, I've created an army of robots and I'm going to destroy the world with this city I've turned into a meteor. And they're like, no. And they wipe him out. And then, as we see later, because of this, Thanos comes and they're divided and he pretty handily beats them. They put up a fair fight, but because they weren't ready for it, because the big thing is, the big argument really is, what is the cost of protection and security?
Yeah.
And that's a big thing with Captain America in his second movie, The Winter Soldier. It's Hydra, which is pretty much an Avengers level threat, wants to, as part of S.H.I.E.L.D., it's a secret, but as part of S.H.I.E.L.D., want to basically take away everyone's privacy and keep a gun pointed at them in the form of 3 giant gunships. But what was really going to happen was they were just going to wipe everyone out that they saw as a threat. So Captain America shuts that down. But in this, Zemo, you think that he's going to unleash these super soldiers.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh yeah, like, it's time for a fight. Like Captain America, Bucky, and then Iron Man, and you see Black Panther coming, and you're like, this is going to be like new Avengers style stuff. But he shot them all in the head.
Yeah, good.
I think that's really great. Instead of, a lot of these movies fall to, like, Iron Man 1. It's Iron Man versus another guy in an Iron Man suit. Iron Man 2. It's Iron Man and War Machine up against a guy in another Iron Man suit. The Incredible Hulk. It's the Incredible Hulk against another guy who's the Incredible Hulk, but uglier looking. Captain America. It's World War II, but also he's up against another super soldier. Thor broke away from it because he didn't fight another guy like him. He was up against Loki and the Destroyer. I'm not going to get into it. That's the name of the big robot thing. And Iron Man 3 sort of broke away from that. It did, actually. You know what? It did. Captain America 2... it was him against another super soldier. It was him against the Winter Soldier. More or less. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it was the guy to beat at the end was just the good guy, but different.
Yeah, and this one is unique because they're fighting another Avenger.
Yeah, they fighting
each other.
Yeah, because like Zemo says at the start, or when he's introduced, a man can do anything. Well, anyone, I should say. I'm not gonna.
That's right.
Women can do. Anybody can do anything. Saved myself there. Anybody can do anything with enough experience and patience. They can do anything, and I'm like, he's not wrong.
Yeah.
Because he takes down the Avengers. You know, and
they don't even know it.
They didn't. Yeah, they find out properly at the very end, pretty much.
Yeah, because they're so focused on their own things. Yeah. Their own personal things that are going on and with each other. They don't realise that he's the one who's pretty much caused all that. Yeah,
that's the thing with the sort of overarching thing with this movie is it's just escalation. Because there's only one scene in this movie that I'm like, they didn't do that right. And that's when the airport fight scene happens. And I'm not talking about the fight. That fight is magnificent. It is a punch up at a pub, if I've ever seen one. But the bit that initiates it, where they're talking and they sort of get angry with each other and then the fight starts, I was like, nah. Because there's a scene, so there's three sort of argument scenes. The one with all the Avengers, the one with just Captain America and Iron Man. And it is really good. You can tell that these two are mates. Like, you can tell that they're just good, sort of good friends who both believe the same thing, but in different ways. Like I was saying before we got off track, Iron Man believes that security should be at all costs, just about. A shield around the world. We, give up some of your personal freedoms for protection, not in a bad way, but in a, that's just the price that has to be paid now that Earth is on the intergalactic or inter-solar system, however you say it, the interplanetary scale. You know, they've survived an alien invasion. They sent a message out to the rest of the universe that it's on. Yeah. You know, come here, people who have children listening, block their ears, fuck around and find out, rest of the galaxy, pretty much. And so he's just like, doesn't matter. We need to be here to protect the world. And Captain America's like, no, we're not doing that. You're not doing that. Get out of it. I can do what I want. Up yours, everyone else, essentially. Yeah. And he's really polite about it at first, but then the airport scene kind of bothers me because Iron Man is still like, come on, dude. Let's just give this up. We can sit down and we can talk about it. This is us. And he even says, he's like, this is us. Not a bunch of, what did you say, JSOC guys? Like special ops soldiers who would just come in and try and wipe them off the map. Yeah. He's like, it's your friends. Yeah. But at that stage, Steve Rogers, Captain America, is just like, no, this is happening. And he's while they're trying to talk to him, he's already got plans going on with the others going one way and the other. They're spinning around and all that. But then it does lead into probably some of the best MCU fighting. Yeah, it was really cool. It was awesome. I liked Ant-Man's scenes, specifically when he was little and he's going through the fingers. And as little as an ant? Yep. That's why he's called Ant-Man. Wow. And on the shoulder and all through that. That was cool. And then when he becomes Giant Man? Yeah. That's not as cool as when he's small. I think that's cool. It's cool, but when he's little, I think it's the coolest. True. I think it's more useful for him to be Ant-Man. Because when he's Giant Man, he's so slow. Yeah. And it's like a last-ditch effort style thing. I was going to say before, little things with Cap's shield. I only really noticed it early on in that fight in Nigeria. He hits a guy with the shield and whatever, and there's a guy with a gun who pops up and as Captain America's running, because he looks at the guy, but then he can't see him as he's running, he puts his shield up as though he's going to be shot at, even though the guy doesn't shoot.
Yeah.
And you might go, oh, that's weird, but I'm like, that's good. He's like, yep, I'll block myself here. Like, he's not arrogant.
Yeah.
He's just tactical constantly.
Thinking, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the airport fight. There's never a moment where I'm like, that character wouldn't do that. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good.
I don't have much more to say.
Yeah, that's the thing with this movie. Like, it's just action, it's fun, it's good. It's got a good message.
Does it?
Well, it's relatable. Like,
Go on.
It's relatable in the sense that, you know, you have a group of friends or a group of family members or something where everybody has different opinions.
Yeah.
But in this, they need to all come together again. But there is, you know, I think it's a good message. That you can't just do whatever you want.
Yeah, I suppose.
Most of the time. Yeah. Even if you're a superhero. Because your actions have consequences.
Yeah. I think it's quite sad at the end.
Yeah.
You know, it's very sad.
But yeah, I mean, good movie, good action, good CGI, good stunts.
Absolutely.
What more can you say?
Yeah.
Wasn't a very complex movie.
Well, it doesn't need to be. See,
no.
I think some people go, oh, the MCU, it's so simple, it's just this. Not every movie has to be like a cerebral think piece.
Well, that's what I mean. It's just pretty, like, it's good, but there's not a lot to say about it.
Yeah. Well, and we've been talking for a fair while.
You could talk about the MCU for days and days, specifically you, but just this movie, you're like, yep.
Considering it's never been done before, I think it's an interesting topic, the MCU.
Never been done before? Oh, you mean specifically not never been talked about before?
No. I mean the MCU.
Yeah.
A cinematic universe that's successful and stands the test of time and is good. And I haven't seen the Eternals, but I hear it's not that great. But there hasn't been as far as I'm aware, or as far as I've seen for myself and made my own opinion on it, I should say. It's a better way of saying it. There hasn't been a bad, like an outright just crap MCU movie. Because they're never trying too hard.
Yeah.
I feel. And
it just is what it is.
Yeah. And you go to the movies for escapism.
Yeah.
We talked about this when we were talking about Buried last week. Toy Story 3 might not hit the mark for everyone. Buried won't hit the mark for most people. But just about anyone could go watch this movie, other than the littlies, other than the like really little kids, because it's not bloody, but there's like breaking necks and people getting blown up and stuff.
Yeah.
Other than that, I think everything after the opening scene, and maybe the bit where it's just grainy footage of Iron Man's parents being brutally murdered.
Yeah.
That it's, you know, it's pretty much for everyone. Marvel movies are for everyone, I feel.
Yeah.
And that's what popcorn blockbuster movies should be.
Even though you can relate to it in some areas, it's still a superhero movie. Like you say, it's that escapism, just a fun action movie.
Yeah. Well, you don't have to relate to a movie to enjoy it.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying even though you can take some parts of that movie and relate it to your own life, you're still just watching a movie, and it's not depressing like Buried was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just had one last thing. Doesn't it seem kind of weird when we were talking about Barf, the hologram? Doesn't it seem kind of weird that he chose like his last memory of his parents before they died to show to the MIT students?
Yeah.
That's probably the only thing that I was like, that's weird.
Yeah.
That's really weird.
Bit personal.
Yeah, like not, here's me flying around as Iron Man, or here's me doing this, or like working on something. It's, I love you, Dad, and I never really got to say this, but love you guys, and I'll always miss you and whatever. Anyway, back here with Tony Stark. I was like, oh, geez, it's a bit personal, but okay. Yeah, that's all I've got left other than, again, Captain Swamerica.
Yep, he's got big muscles.
Yeah. But yeah, there's not many, like, sound bites that I can put into this episode like I have in the first two. There's not really... I might put in Captain America, Peggy Carter's speech. I might, if I can find it somewhere, but I'm only just thinking of that now. I probably won't worry, but there's not really anything I can add in, you know?
Yeah.
There's no music. It's just a good movie. Not great.
Yeah.
Leaning towards there. It's better than most, but it's not like... I think I described it as good as I could have earlier when I said it does what it says on the tin.
Exactly, yeah. It's pretty down the middle. Yeah, movie.
I don't know, better than down the middle.
Okay, well, that's my opinion. That's my opinion.
And that brings us to the verdict.
Yep.
Again, we don't like to think of ourselves as reviewers, but got to slap a label on it. And, you know, this is all just opinion-based and what we like and what we don't. And you might listen to this and go, far out, these people just ramble on and on. Get over it. This is just what we do. This is just how we are. Yep. Anyway.
You vote first.
Okay. I believe that this is cash.
Yeah, me too. I'd say cash too. Even though I feel pretty meh about this movie, but it wasn't bad.
Well, we don't have a recyclable option, or I can't think of anything else related. We don't have refunds area.
Yeah. So, cash. The action was good. That's the best part of the whole movie.
Yeah.
I was bored in the beginning, but they made up for it.
I believe, and you can vote however you want, I believe if you look back on it and you go, like, I don't feel like watching this movie again anytime soon.
No.
But if you look back on it and you go, would I watch it again, or would I recommend it to other people, or did I enjoy it more than I didn't, then that's when I go, that's cash.
Yeah, so I'd say cash.
Yeah. I mean, I know people might go, oh, Rob's just doling out cash all day. Metaphorical cash. I do not have real cash to give. But...
Well, I was just going to say, I'm probably a bit more quiet this episode because, like I said in the beginning, I have a pretty basic understanding of the whole Marvel, MCU and all that. You have a bit more extensive knowledge than me.
Thank you.
This was Rob featuring Demi this episode.
That's a bit harsh.
I just don't have a lot to say about it. For me, these movies are they just are what they are.
Well, I used to really love these movies. You know, if we were sitting down talking about this movie 3-4 years ago, well, that was... Geez, that was still 2 years after it came out. Crap. I would have been like, oh, yeah, and then this happened, and then he was like this. There is one bit, actually, where Falcon puts his arms by his side and shoots Red Wing, his little drone, out to hit Iron Man in the head.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Sorry. That was fantastic. Yeah, I don't have much to say about it now because I think I'll talk more about that sort of stuff when we do Endgame. Yeah,
compared to some of the movies that they have come out with, this one for me was just It's good, but...
I get that.
Nothing was really outstanding to me.
A lot more popcorn.
Yeah.
Or do you mean in the other way, like it wasn't as interesting as you would have liked?
No, like you say, it just is what it is.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's fair. That's completely fair. That, you know, you can feel any way you want about a movie, even if it's wrong.
Thank you for allowing me that.
That's all right.
Yeah. Well, that wraps up this episode. If you want to support us, we have a Patreon, and if you want to follow us on Instagram, it is at Cash vs Trash Pod, and our listening apps are Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music, and then we're also on YouTube, but the links will be in the bio, in the description. And that wraps up.
Yeah. Well, I suppose we should talk about what we're going to be talking about
next week. Yeah.
Which is the lowest grossing movie of 2016. A movie that I have never seen before, but just taking one look at it, I'm not looking forward to.
The Choice.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think it's a romance.
Yeah, should be interesting. Tune in next week.
Yeah, who knows? This might be my first trash.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's financially trash. Whereas this, Captain America, Civil War, is all around cash.
Yep.
We might see if... I think that this will be... I know it's only the second quote-unquote trash movie that we're doing, lowest grossing. Don't mean to offend anyone.
No.
Like last week we said with Buried, it did not deserve to be where it was, but we understood why it was where it was.
Yeah.
Where it was.
Yeah.
But personal biases aside, I can look at this movie and go, yeah, you should be there.
Well, I'm a sucker for romances, so we'll see.
I haven't seen it. I could be wrong.
I haven't seen it either.
Yeah, I was wrong about Turning Red. I looked at that and was like, pfft. And I thought that was a great movie.
Yeah.
Little bonus, little extra review at the end of that. Yeah. So I believe we've rambled on long enough.
Yeah.
This has been the Cash versus Trash podcast.
Thank you. See ya.